It's summer gardening season, and at this time of the year, we're all saying, I am not going to let tomato disease in my garden. And when it does happen, we wonder, what in the world did I do wrong? Well, I'm going to level with you. Tomato disease cannot be prevented completely. It's going to happen, and it doesn't mean it's your fault. They are prone to disease. But the good news is, by doing a few simple methods now, early in the season, you can help prevent disease and manage disease when it does happen before it gets out of control. So you've got a great shot at getting lots of tomatoes to harvest this season. First, we're going to focus on preventing tomato disease as much as we can anyway, because it's a lot easier to prevent disease before it happens than to manage it once it does happen. So the first method we're going to use is pruning. Now, I'm not talking about single stem pruning or pruning out the suckers. I'm talking about pruning the lower 6 inches of the plant, because what happens is a lot of the pathogens live in the soil, and when the water splashes from the soil to the leaves, that's when a lot of disease occurs. So we're going to prune the lower 6 inches using a nice sharp pair of pruners, and super, super important that you sanitize and clean your pruners before and after each cut. So I've got a little jar here of isopropyl alcohol. It'll sanitize my pruners, and not only that, it actually sanitizes and kind of cauterizes the wound here when I'm going to prune, because a lot of disease can also enter through these wounds after the prune. So it'll just help that little wound there heal over quicker, so disease cannot be introduced through that cut. So I'm just going to go through here and clean out and prune out the bottom 6 inches. It allows for a lot more airflow, because a lot of disease also happens when tomato leaves get wet and then stay wet. By pruning the bottom 6 inches, you're allowing also a lot more sunlight to get through, which can dry out the bottom of the plant as well and help prevent disease. Now, if you have a large leaf like this that isn't on the bottom 6 inches of the plant, this one's a little bit higher up, but it is almost touching the ground. You can actually snip off half the branch. That way you minimize your chance of soil splash. But this one back in here definitely needs to be trimmed. These are newly planted tomatoes, so I haven't done any pruning at all. So you can see here, this one actually has 2 stems. And I am going to go ahead and cut out the second stem, because it's going to take a lot of energy away from the plant, and that way it just cleans it up and allows for more airflow in general. And these ones still need to be trellised. You may need to do this a couple of times during the growing season, but these plants, since they haven't been pruned yet, you can see how little airflow there is down in here. So simply by getting in here and pruning them up, it makes all the difference. And look how much more airflow is around that plant. Because there'd be no soil splash onto the leaves, there's much less chance of disease. All the tomatoes I just pruned on the hill there are indeterminate tomatoes. They can take quite a bit of pruning. But I do have some determinate tomatoes over here, which typically you don't do a lot of pruning on determinate tomatoes, because that can significantly reduce their harvest. However, this is the exception. You do want to prune the branches that touch the ground for the exact same reason I just shared. These are tiny Tims, and I'm going to prune off just the lower leaves, not any of the leaves that are up above. So I don't have leaves that touch the ground, and that way we can minimize and help prevent disease from soil splash. Lots more airflow now. One more. Next preventative method is mulching. Now, mulching is super important, not only to reduce water evaporation so you don't have to water as often, but also to reduce that dreaded soil splash, so pathogens are not splashing from the soil up onto your plants. So here I'm just using something called clean straw. It's a clean, shredded straw you can purchase on Amazon. I'll put a link in my video description here. And I like to just spread a couple of inches throughout my tomato bed. Keep my plants cooler in the hot weather, and keep the water from splashing from the soil onto the plants. You can also use shredded leaves if you have those available to you, or even shredded cardboard, as long as you shred it up nice and finely, so there's still plenty of airflow around your plants. Here's what's cool. You get a lot of bang for your buck here. It's not expensive. It's a great alternative if you don't have your own shredded leaves, and they pack a lot into this bag, so you really get a lot of bang for your buck. Next preventative method is water smart. What you don't want to do is water hard overhead watering, because remember, we are trying to minimize soil splash to minimize pathogens splashing from the soil to the plants. You have a couple different options that I recommend for watering your tomatoes. First off, being the Mr. Landscaper system with the inline drip emitters. Now this is great because it waters at the base of your plant, so the water gets down into the roots where it needs it the most, and there's absolutely no soil splash. So with this type of system, super easy to install. You can check out our video on how to install it. It really doesn't matter if you water in the morning or in the evening because the leaves aren't getting wet and staying wet overnight. So you can water at the convenient time that you choose. The second option is the Mr. Landscaper micro sprayers. I've installed these all over my hill this summer. And you know what? My garden has never grown better because what micro sprayers do is they mimic gentle rain. So you're not just getting water at the base of the plants, but you're actually watering all the feeder roots, which means the roots are going to spread out and grow. The tomato plant will be stronger, sturdier, and healthier. And I'm absolutely loving how these are making my garden grow. A lot of people say you shouldn't get your tomato leaves wet at all by watering overhead. These actually mimic gentle rain, so there's no soil splash. So what I do is I water first thing in the morning very early so the leaves do dry out before nightfall hits. Nighttime, if your leaves are wet, it's the perfect breeding ground for disease as the temperatures drop and the humidity rises. So you definitely want to water first thing in the morning so those leaves dry out before night. The third option, if you're growing tomatoes in containers like I am here, is to use the Mr. Landscaper adjustable drippers. And the great thing is they have a kit, super easy to install. These are really cool because you can actually adjust the amount of water that comes out of the drippers based on the container size and your plant needs. It waters at the base, so you're not having to worry about soil splash at all with these drippers. Next prevention is to boost the plant's immunity. Just like we need it in our bodies, our plants need it too. And this has been huge for me because when you boost the plant's immunity, you're helping it fend off and prevent disease as it is introduced into your garden. Now, I used to use all the natural remedies like putting an aspirin in the soil or spraying with an aspirin spray, and honestly, I really didn't see a difference. A couple years ago, I started using Monterey Complete Disease Control. What a huge difference I saw in my plants. Much less disease during the season. Now, this is an organic treatment and it has a naturally occurring beneficial soil bacterium that when your roots are drenched with it, it colonizes around the roots of your plants and helps boost the plant's natural immune system and fend off disease. So how this can be used for a preventative measure is you do a root drench at planting time or a couple of weeks after planting time. These tomatoes are just newly planted. Add the concentrate to your watering can. Just follow the package directions. And then I'm going to do a nice deep root drench to each of my tomato plants. And then I'm not going to water for about 24 hours afterwards. And the reason for this is because it contains those beneficial microbes and they need time to kind of settle down and colonize those roots with all the good bacteria. If you water again right away, they'll just wash away and you'll dilute the effectiveness of the product. So it's great for disease prevention, and then you can reapply it about 3 to 4 months later. So maybe towards the end of the summer, you'll do this again. In spite of our best intentions and our best preventative measures, disease will happen. And it doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong. But when it happens, you have to be armed and ready to control it. Now, there are 2 different types of tomato diseases: soft diseases and hard diseases. And it's important to know the difference so you know what to expect when you treat them. A good example of a soft disease is powdery mildew. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any powdery mildew to show you today, which is definitely a good sign. However, you've probably seen it on your cucumbers, maybe on your tomatoes. It's that soft white fuzz that kind of starts growing on your leaves. A lot of times you can tell if it's a soft disease if you can kind of wipe it off the plant. The soft diseases are just on the surface of the plant and they're much easier to get rid of. Now, a hard disease is totally different. I've actually got some type of a spot hard disease going on here on my tomato plant. This is one of the very first tomatoes I planted here. So a lot of times disease will show up on the plants that you put in first or on older plants later in the season. This is actually a spot on the leaf, and this is not something you're going to be able to wipe off. It's within the leaf of the plant. The most important thing to managing disease on your tomato plants is to catch them early. Super important. So the first thing I do, whether it be a soft disease or a hard disease, is I prune off the affected leaves. Now, don't forget at this point, super important, to dip your pruner in alcohol to clean them and especially to avoid the spread of disease. So for powdery mildew, I'll trim off the leaves that are affected. For hard diseases, the same thing. Trim off any leaves all the way to the stem here that have the spots on them, and this will really help prevent the spread. So this one here is quite a big branch, but I'd much rather trim off my big branch here and have one less branch on my tomato plant than spread this disease. And always check the bottom branches. Got a few spotted leaves here. So we're going all the way back to the stem. So not only can Monterey Complete Disease Control be used as prevention, but also as disease management. We're actually going to use a spray this time rather than a root drench. So I'm going to add some of the concentrate here to my spray bottle. Give it a shake. Now for soft diseases like powdery mildew, it will actually cure it if you spray it at the very first signs of it occurring. For heart diseases, it's not going to cure it because remember, it's in the tissue of the plant. It won't make the spots actually go away on the leaves of the plant, but it will help it from preventing on future new leaves. So I'm going to spray the top of the leaves, the bottom of the leaves. I always spray in the evening when the bees aren't as active. Never spray in direct sunlight so you don't have UV damage to your plant. And because this does have some leaf spot, I am going to spray the entire plant from top to bottom. It acts like a natural antibiotic and suppresses and breaks down those surface pathogens quickly. So once the powdery mildew shows up, I spray every 7 to 10 days for about 2 to 3 weeks. And when the new growth looks clean without powdery mildew, I switch to a preventative spray every 2 to 3 weeks, just to keep it from creeping back in. Now for the heart diseases, it won't cure what's already infected, but it helps contain the spread and supports the plant's defenses from the root system up, and helps the new growth from getting new spots, and it definitely slows the spread. All the links to the supplies I use are in the video description, and remember, you don't have to get discouraged because you have tomato disease. It's not your fault, and there's lots of things you can do to prevent or manage it. As always, I'll be reading the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.